Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode, I'm going to take a look at the 2004 movie The Forgotten with Julianne Moore. This has a 32% rating on the tomato meter and a 36% on the audience score. It is rotten. I would say that I agree it is largely rotten. Personally, I think this movie could have been a lot better. I see where it was trying to go. It was easy to understand. It starts out as a psychological thriller in which a woman discovers that she has lost her memory of having a daughter, and she finds a neighbor who has lost his memory of having a child as well, and together they they think they may be losing their minds, but then they come to think by interacting with a psychologist, I guess they have a mutual psychologist, that there is some kind of conspiracy to make them forget about their kids. They come to believe that this may be a government conspiracy, etc. So they kind of go on the run together to unravel this conspiracy. And then somewhere along the line, it just transforms into an alien abduction movie. Aliens have taken their kids. The government's in on it or in league with the aliens, or at least keeping the public from knowing that the aliens are taking people's kids. And the movie ends up at a point in which the aliens basically decide to return the mom's kid to her because her motherhood instincts were just too powerful, and they decided to, like the fishermen throwing back a fish now and then for whatever reason. So it goes from psychological thriller to alien abduction, government conspiracy movie, and it does this very quickly. It does have a message of sorts in that it is trying to say that the power of motherhood is so powerful that even government conspiracies and alien plots can't stop motherhood, I guess. So in any case, that's the message I got from it. I didn't think this was a complete waste. I thought there was somewhere buried underneath this, there was a quite decent movie, but we never got that. So let's take a look at recent reviews, audience reviews. The most recent being October 4th of 2019, to find out just how well this is aged and what people think of this now. If I had to give this a star rating, I would give it 2 stars, peaking at 2 stars because the movie didn't utilize its premise effectively. It did deliver a message, but it didn't do it effectively. I think it's just disappointing. It disappointed me when I saw this. Again, I didn't see this at the theater. I saw it on home video, so it didn't anger me, but it was disappointing. I expected something more, to get something more out of this by the end, and it failed. So let's start with the 2-star review. Starts somewhat promising, but this slowly and painfully dissolves as you gradually realize that the film will not be answering the key questions of the story. Overall, a cheap conspiracy thriller that lazily fails to deliver on the climax. Some good acting, though. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that. Somewhere around the halfway mark, when the two characters are in the hotel room together, and they have a little romance too. Then at that point, I realized that this wasn't going to be satisfying. This wasn't going to give me something new by the end, and it would be pretty forgettable. And like the title suggests, forgotten. Well, this movie has largely been forgotten. 2.5 stars. It's meh. The story is really out there, but the way they execute it is good. I must say, though, it was much more impactful back in the early 2000s. Julianne Moore was up to her usual antics here, which isn't that bad. Aside from the plot being boring at times, it's a barely serviceable film. I think it started off good. It had me hooked in the conspiracy thriller type of way. And then something about when the two characters ended up at the motel room and they had their little romance, and then all the tension and everything kind of just drained away. And that's where I realized, this wasn't going to go very well by the end. That's where it kind of fell apart for me. Can't put my finger on what it was, but I think that they should not have had their little affair. I thought that messed up the theming a lot and the tone, and it wasted a lot of footage. You know, that's the part where it got a little boring for me, where they were in that hotel room. Yeah, that's where it kind of went bad. 3 stars. This film is a bit slow to begin with, and then suddenly leaps into a story which becomes a little bonkers. Just go with it as it's different and keeps you gripped. The film is about an experiment, and as the movie goes on, things become stranger, but in a good way. It feels like watching The Adjustment Bureau. The ending is a bit odd as it leaves you with questions you want answered. No, I wouldn't relate this to the Adjustment Bureau. The Adjustment Bureau took its premise and kind of turned it into an action thriller chase type thing. And again, it's forgettable too. But this is completely different. This kind of hooked you with a psychological government conspiracy. Whether you're kind of wondering, is there really this government conspiracy? Or are the characters like mentally defective in some way because, after all, they were seeing the same psychologist for some reason? No, totally different than The Adjustment Bureau. That's a movie I might visit, though, because it is also forgotten. 2.5 stars. Does the NSA really have field agents? Good question, but in a movie like this, you can say they do because that's the least of the implausible parts about it. So if they don't, it's believable that they do. You could easily just say it's not the NSA and it's the CIA or some other agency. These type of movies, anytime you go into X-Files territory, you can just kind of throw around these 3-letter acronyms, and people are used to that. 1 star. Okay, so most of this movie is excruciatingly bad, and it's almost a sort of riff-worthy material of an episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000, almost. But overall, it's super hilarious when Alfre Woodward shoots up into space without a moment's notice. I laughed my way through it, but wouldn't rush out to watch it again. Yeah, there's kind of like a shocker, or it was intended to be shocking, how the aliens, when they sense that somebody's getting too close to getting some real information about what's going on, they simply use some kind of force power to grab them like a human child would grab an ant from the anthill and just pull it up through the ceiling and pull it off into the sky. It kind of works the first time for shock value, but then again, you're kind of left wondering if the aliens or whoever have this kind of power, surveillance wise, and the ability to just shoot people off into the sky and pluck them away, then why has the movie gotten this far? Why have these characters gotten this far to begin with? The movie kind of tries to explain that by saying the aliens are running an experiment. They want to see just how much Julianne Moore's character will end up remembering because they've taken away her memory. It's some kind of experiment with motherhood. That's what one of the reviewers was alluding to. But you don't get that until the end. So while you're in the middle of it, you just find it like attempting these shock value things. Again, it only works once. So as we go further into the movie and you're not getting an explanation of what kind of alien force we're dealing with, it just doesn't work. The movie doesn't really give a satisfying ending. Yes, it kind of superficially says it was an experiment, but, who are the aliens? How did the government come to cooperate with them, etc.? These things are just hand waved away. The movie doesn't attempt to explain them. 1 star. Okay, I read that one. 5 stars. The best thriller ever made. The cast is amazing, and you really feel for the characters. I don't believe this reviewer. I don't know why I don't know why reviewers like this, they put these type of reviews here, but they're not believable. 2 stars. This whole movie is nonsensical. The plot of this film makes no sense. It's straight up boring, and the story makes no sense. Basically, it goes like this. Mother loves her son. Days later, her son is missing, and everybody else, for no logical reason, all of a sudden forgets that she has a son and can't find any evidence that she even has a son. Then suddenly and coincidentally, her friend Ash forgets his own daughter, and she is suddenly missing and nowhere to be found. Yeah, the movie doesn't quite explain how, yes, they can make the mother forget she had the child, but how does it make every other person in town that might have known this, that she had a child, also forget? Yes, they're like all-powerful, godlike aliens, but still, you don't get that till the very end, so you're just kind of wondering WTF the whole time. 3.5 stars. Quite empty mystery stuff, but with one of the most surprising and shocking moments ever put to film. It's not surprising and shocking. It works once, pulling the guy from his chair, well, still in his chair. He's pulled through the ceiling and off into space or the sky. It works once for shock value, but it doesn't work again. And you have to kind of explain something about that. You can't just leave it to the very end. 1 star. The Forgotten is a disappointing film. It is about a man and woman soon discover there is a much bigger enemy at work after being told that their children never existed. Julianne Moore and Dominic West give horrible performances. The script is badly written. Joseph Rubin did a terrible job directing this movie. I was not impressed with this motion picture. Yeah, I'll largely agree. Julianne Moore, I haven't seen too many movies of hers where she's impressing me with her performances. She kind of seems to play the same type of person a lot. When I see her, I kind of know she's her. I've never seen her show up in a movie and I'm surprised that she's different in a way, like, that I'm seeing something new about her. I don't think she's that impressive, but that's just me. 5 stars. I think this is a great sci-fi movie. Don't miss it. Nah, it's not great. You could find it on the Sci-Fi Channel running as a B movie. It would be okay, I guess. 3 stars, watchable. Like any sci-fi flick, there are stupid elements to it, but overall an enjoyable movie. No, I disagree. It would be like considered dissatisfying even as a sci-fi movie because it doesn't explain anything. Not enough to be sci-fi. It's more like a psychological thing. 2 stars. This film is a bit slow to begin with and then suddenly leaps into a story which becomes, okay, we've read that. 3 stars. The idea of her trying to find her missing 8-year-old son was interesting, but when aliens got involved, the story took a nosedive. Yeah, I don't know if it was the aliens or it was just, it hit that mark during the hotel room scene where they were kind of not really doing anything, and that's when it all just kind of like lost my interest. 1.5 stars. Pretty sure this is the second time I've watched this film, and I still didn't really understand what was going on. It has a bit of a top-notch cast of experienced US TV character actors, and bizarrely Julianne Moore. I imagine her agent was sacked shortly afterwards. None of them can make head nor tail of the preposterous X-Files light plot. That's a good review calling it X-Files light. It is like an X-Files plot, but a light plot. Something out of a forgettable X-Files episode stretched into a movie. 1 star. One of the most stupid and awful films I have ever encountered. 2.5 stars. Full of mystery and intrigue. The Forgotten is a suspenseful psychological thriller that kind of goes off the rails. The story follows a grieving mother who lost her son in a plane crash, but soon all evidence of her son's existence is erased, leaving her to question her sanity. Yeah, I don't know about the plane crash part. Maybe I've forgotten something. But yeah, it's a psychological thriller when it starts, and then it kind of just peters out in the hotel room and becomes like an alien conspiracy thing. Surprise. 2 stars. The most needlessly convoluted M. Night Shyamalan-esque movie Shyamalan never made, but with a few redeemable good performances. That's a good point. This could have been something by M. Night. Maybe it was M. Night something that he passed up because this would have been a bomb of his making, no question. But it might have been funnier. If he had done to this what he did with The Happening, at least you could get, an hour and a half of laughter out of it. 3.5 stars. The Forgotten is a well-made and well-acted film that requires you to either disengage your brain or play along. If you can, then it is an enjoyable film in spite of an unrealistic plot. Julianne Moore, great to watch as always, and there are a few nice dramatic effects. Fans of paranormal thrillers should enjoy this one. Yeah, if you're a fan of a paranormal thriller, you'll enjoy it until you get about to that hotel room scene, and then it just kind of gets boring on top of other flaws later. 3 stars. Really good storyline. I did not like the science fiction aspect to it, though. Could really have done without that. Those parts were just weird. Yeah, if you didn't know from anybody else or from any marketing, you would think that this was just a paranoid conspiracy thriller, but then, surprise, the aliens show up. 1.5 stars. Makes no sense and does the impossible. Makes Moore look really bad. Yeah, 2 stars. The Forgotten wastes Julianne Moore's skilled work with a premise far too ridiculously silly, topped off by an even more egregious twist. 2.5 stars. Based on a true notion, a true premise. Yeah. 1 star. Julianne Moore, I love you, but I hate that you chose to star in this movie. The Forgotten is an incoherent episode of The X-Files that just grows dumber and dumber and dumber. Dominic West is terrible as Moore's sidekick who likes to beat people up. This is a nice premise executed badly. Yeah, I'll agree. It started off great and then it just kind of bombed out. 4 stars. An X-File type story, except there is no Mulder or Scully except for the underdying motherly love of Julianne Moore to save Mother Earth from the aliens. This was an improvement on the TV series because we saw the booming sudden abduction of unsuspecting humans. Well, yeah, it is the only movie I've seen that showed humans just being plucked off the face of the earth like a kid would pluck an ant from an anthill. That was pretty cool, but it wasn't enough to carry the movie, I'm afraid. 1 star, grossly convoluted and dreadfully boring. 2.5 stars, quite an ironic title, isn't it? Yeah, it is. The Forgotten. I almost forgot about it. 2 stars, God, this movie made so little sense at times. 3.5 stars, amazing. Moore was great as always. Disagree. 2 stars, a cool idea, but the story falls apart in my opinion because of pretty bad writing and average filming. Didn't mind checking it out once. The idea kept me interested, but I could not really take it seriously. Yeah, it just became like boring, and at the end it was dissatisfying. The big twist at the end, the explanation. It's one of those where the bad guy actually gives you an expository speech about why he did what he did, that kind of thing. It's kind of cheap. It's a cheap way of ending it. It's boring. 2.5 stars. Like an episode of The X-Files, it's great while one is curious about the mystery, but falls apart when things are explained. Yeah, exactly. 3 stars. The trailer looked so good. The movie looked good. Too bad it's not all about appearances. Yeah, 3 stars though? No. Try 1 star. Maybe into 2. 1.5 stars. Ugh, it's not that the acting sucks, it's the storyline. God, don't waste your time. 2 stars. Brightened by the presence of Julianne Moore, The Forgotten begins with genuine curiosity, but an out-of-left-field explanation makes any previous well-done effort in vain. 1.5 stars. I don't understand what was supposed to be intense or suspenseful. This is a stupid film. 3 stars. This is bizarre, but the second half gets going with a lot of action. There's not really any action. Again, 1 or 2 people are plucked off the face of the earth into the sky. That's not really action. The ending, the climax at the ending is not really a climax. The bad guy, the alien antagonist, he simply explains what he's been up to, and it's just kind of really dissatisfying. 2 stars. Hey guys, you know what would make like such a cool ending for this so far great film? Yeah, what? Aliens. Silence for a second. Freaking brilliant, Jim. Saying that it's a twist ending and it's just the ending that showed you it was aliens. No, they showed you it was aliens from like the part where the guy's chair got plucked through the ceiling. If you were slow enough that you needed the actual villain at the end to explain he was an alien, then you're I don't know, maybe you shouldn't be watching these type of films that are good, because this was completely obvious by that first chair plucking scene. So no, it wasn't a twist at the end that the bad guy was an alien. The twist really was that this was an experiment, and that Julianne Moore really did have a kid, and the aliens were going to put the kid back. Because, up until the end, you still didn't know for sure if she really had a kid. But you found out at the end. But the alien part wasn't the twist. You knew it was aliens by like 2/3 into this or less. 2 stars. It started off good, a heart-wrenching story of a mother's maternal instinct that helps her to find her son, despite everyone around her claims that her son never existed. Then there comes the twist, a stupid twist that made no sense at all. Casting Julianne Moore was a bad decision. She's a good actress for sure, but she doesn't suit playing a mother. She loves abortion, and the acting was unconvincing. Utterly a disappointment because the writer couldn't provide a valid explanation for the missing child. It could have been that. Maybe the writer, it was just easy to divert into the alien thing, but it's kind of nonsensical too because why would the aliens bother if they saw us as ants, as it's explained in the movie? They wouldn't need to like feel sorry for us and go through all the effort of not only putting her child back but also like restoring all the memories of everybody that would be involved around that. It doesn't make a lot of sense. 3 stars, kind of like a Twilight Zone episode. 1 star, sometimes reviews don't always do the film justice. In this case, The Forgotten is as bad as it looks. Yeah, I'll agree. Derailed within the first act, probably the first act, if you could call it that. 4.5 stars. This is one creepy movie, very underrated. No, it's not underrated. It's only creepy until the motel scene, and then it just all becomes boring. 3 stars. It's fun to crap on this movie, apparently, but I enjoyed it. It's not your run-of-the-mill thriller, and the ending is relatively satisfying. Well worth the 96 minutes you invest in it, I think. Yeah, it is 1 hour and 31 minutes. This is a review from December of 2013, and it didn't take long to go that far back in time, so apparently this movie really has been forgotten. 3 stars. The Forgotten carries a great premise and a great first half, but grows too ridiculous to be taken seriously when the villain is revealed. If this movie was strictly a Twilight Zone-esque psychological thriller, void of the ridiculous and over-the-top extraterrestrial aspect, no doubt The Forgotten would have skyrocketed in quality. The Forgotten had solid performances and a promising premise, but unfortunately a ludicrous second half with some annoying unanswered plot strands. Yeah, plot strands that were unanswered. It was dissatisfying, the ending. The alien part didn't ruin it, but it just became boring too. 3.5 stars. The film is just fine, I guess, but its title couldn't be any more fitting because it won't be too long before this effort is forgotten by me, as surely as I have been forgotten by everyone else. Man, that lame joke was abusively overused by the people who actually saw this film when it first came out, but again, everyone has forgotten this film, so I doubt they even recollect jokes they cracked about this film, even if they were about as obvious as this film itself. Yeah, it's kind of funny. The Forgotten was quickly forgotten, yes. 2 stars. I liked the beginning and middle, but the last section, the movie sucked. Yeah, it was very dissatisfying. 4 stars. A fantastic thriller. I don't understand why it has such poor reviews. I did not see the end coming. I love these movies. If you didn't see the end coming, then you're like not a native English speaker. Maybe you are native to Tajikistan or some small village in that area, Uzbekistan, and this is like a big budget movie that you got to see, and most of it went over your head, but you liked the chair flying through the ceiling scene. That's all I'm guessing because I don't get it. 3.5 stars. Though it's kind of overly sentimental at times, I thought the premise was fascinating and the twists and turns were intriguing. Yeah, sure. 1 star. The movie starts off okay, but it just gets so ridiculous as it drags on, and the ending made absolutely no sense. Honestly, it was a bit pitiful. Yeah, it was very boring by the middle of it. Um, 2.5 stars. More is good, and so is the idea, but that's all there is to this. Yeah, this started off great, then it just went nowhere. 3 stars. The conspiracy of 2 dead children of different parents. They died on an airplane, or did they? Is it an experiment? The car crash was kind of cool. It came out of nowhere. Slow paced in some areas. Not bad, but could have been better. Not one I would watch every day. Okay, so I guess there was a car, there was an airplane aspect to this plot. I guess both of their kids, everybody else thought they died in plane crashes. See, I forgot about that. This movie is called The Forgotten for a reason. It's not relative to the plot anyway. Nothing about how the kids would have been real or unreal really turned out to be relevant to everything later. 3 stars. This could have been something. It achieved mood very well, but ended rather cheaply. Yeah, cheap enough to be 1, 2 stars max on a good day. 4 stars. Whatever said by anybody, this movie is good as any classic thriller. Right, sure it is. It's right up there with Hitchcock's greatest hits. 4 stars, not English. 4 stars, extremely good movie. Just the thought of something like that happening is somehow frightening. Then there are other movies that are worth watching. Certainly not this one, because other movies have done the premise better. 2 stars. You can read my review here. No, thank you. 2.5 stars. Good film until you get to the extraterrestrial part of it. 5 stars. It's like Shutter Island and Aliens combined. It's really freaky cool. No, Shutter Island was better. Shutter Island set out to do something, and at the end, it was still the same genre, and it wasn't a totally different genre with aliens. So no, I disagree. 3.5 stars, great movie, suspenseful, mysterious. 5 stars, you don't know what's going to happen until it happens. Loved it. Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen when they get to the hotel room. You don't know if they're going to have a little romance. They do. You don't know if they're going to answer any questions by the end of the movie. They answer one or two. Again, that doesn't mean anything. 5 stars. I take away 4 of those and give you 1 for the effort. 3 stars. The first hour is great. The last half hour is confusing, sloppy, and forgettable. Yeah, I wouldn't say the first hour is great. Maybe the first 20 minutes. 3 stars. The Forgotten is a captivating, fast-paced conspiracy mystery film up until the flat and overly digestible ending. The title is an accurate description of how you might file this film after watching it. Yeah, The Forgotten. No, but not until the ending. Again, The Forgotten by even halfway is forgettable. 0.5 star. I can't wait until this movie is forgotten. 2.5 star. Not the greatest movie and a little clumsy at times, but the premise is excellent and the acting solid. Makes you ask more questions about shadowy government agencies, and that's the idea. Whether it may be superficial or not, I enjoyed it and didn't feel I'd wasted my time watching it when it was over. You think the plot was just to get people to ask questions about shadowy government agencies? Okay, I guess you found something in it. 2 stars, spoiler alert. Why is it always aliens? I don't know. I'm not saying that it's aliens, but it's aliens. 1.5 stars. Don't watch The Forgotten. It forgets to grab your attention and has forgotten what good acting is. The Forgotten is just terribly forgetful. 5 stars. When I watched this movie, it completely surprised me. It didn't develop as I thought it would. I like movies like that. Okay. 0.5 star. I've seen this mess before and totally forgot about it because it was pretty bad. All I can recall is the fact that Moore's kid was snatched, and forgetting about this movie wasn't a joke. Yeah. 4 stars. Very interesting. Challenges you to figure out the story as it goes along. No, when you end up in the motel room, the only thing you're wondering is, are they actually going to sleep with each other? Oh, yeah, they do. 5 stars. Wow, super cool, awesome movie. Aliens. 3.5 stars. It really feels like X-Files. No, it doesn't. It feels like a story that was rejected from X-Files. It could have been something in X-Files, but it was, it didn't quite make the cut. So I'm going to leave it there. 36% audience score. I don't know if that's fair or not. I've forgotten too many details about the film to know. But yeah, it's rotten. Don't waste your time. If you see it running on HBO in the wee hours of the morning, okay, go ahead and look at it once, but don't be surprised if you fall asleep. Okay, before I forget what I'm doing, I'm going to call this one, and I'm going to see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.